Do you ever wish you had a personal hype girl? Someone to pump you up when you're feeling down or high-five you when things go right? Well, guess what? I'm your girl, that's me, and that's what Talks with Your Trainer is all about. So stand up, chin high, get your party pump on, and let's get after it. Okay, hello again. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Talks with Your Trainer. I am your very perky host, Meghan Trainor. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Thank you for joining again after the revamp of the Talks with Your Trainer podcast that we had a couple weeks ago. I couldn't be more excited to be in such a professional setup. I wish you guys could see what was on the other side. There's lights, camera, action, and the set looks just absolutely amazing. I feel so lucky to be sitting in this chair with you guys. So thank you for listening last week. Thank you for watching last week. I had more views, which was very exciting, and I'm hoping that this week we have more of those as well. How you doing? How was the week? I want you guys to take a moment always and think about if you're having a good week or not, and if you're not, why? What's going on? I think it's important for us to check in with ourselves and understand, are we helping ourselves have a good week, or are we sort of adding on to a reason that might be causing us some sort of sadness or depression or anxiety? Because I think the Monday scaries, as I've talked about before, are made up. I know I get them, so I'm not saying I can fully get rid of them, but I think we create them in our heads. So if you're having a good week right now, why? Think about that too. We got to celebrate the wins. I am your hype girl, so focus on why you're having a good week. Take a moment, write it down. Never take for granted, even if it's the smallest thing. Write it down, acknowledge it. If you got in your workouts with Body by Trainer this week, amazing. I am jealous because we'll get into it more in a moment, but as you know, I'm on a little bit of a BBT workout hiatus, so I'm just walking. I just walk, and I just keep walking, and I am going to have the best calves you've ever seen in 2 weeks. Just wait. We're going to do a preview of my calves, but I am jealous of those of you that are getting after it on Body by Trainer. You guys are pumping me up so much. Seeing you get into these workouts and seeing you focus and getting in with your fellow community of Body by Trainer clams, it's so inspiring. And when I come back, you better watch out. You better not cry, because I'm going to kick your butt. And I couldn't wait to talk to you all about what I've been going through last week. If you missed it, where you been? I announced that I had a breast augmentation. I have a few friends that giggle every time I say that because I like to call it what it's really, the full term for it. And this episode, I have my very first guest. Now listen, I had one podcast episode earlier last year where my mom and I were in the Turks and Caicos for my mom's 70th birthday. And I brought my computer because at that time I was doing weekly episodes. And I knew I needed to get an episode in. So I brought my computer and I brought this little teeny tiny microphone that my mom and I passed back and forth. And I was trying to keep it very professional in the sound. So when we passed it back and forth, I was like, here, Mom, like whisper, here you go. Trying not to make a lot of noise. So this really is just, we're taking it up. We're leveling up. I know that February for the Body by Trainer experience has all been about leveling up, and even though I can't level up lifting weights or doing burpees, this is how I'm leveling up. So thank you for meeting me where I am in this fabulous chair. I'm so excited to have Dr. Capizzi, Dr. Peter Capizzi, on today. He is the amazing plastic surgeon that performed my breast augmentation only 8 days ago. I'm sorry. But as a gal who has never had thoughts of her chest, it has been a unique 8 days, and I will dive into that very briefly because I do want to bring Dr. Capizzi on to answer a lot of the great questions that you had last week on Body by Trainer. I posted a question box on my stories, and you guys gave some really, really good thought-provoking questions, and I'm very excited to have him on because he is, in my opinion, I wouldn't go anywhere else. I wouldn't trust my body to anyone that I didn't fully know was the best. And he is going to be able to answer these questions for you in a fully candid and honest way. Again, I mentioned it on the podcast last week. I'm just so excited to have this comfortable space where I feel like we can really talk about things in a very open way, no judgment. I did eventually tell my brother about this and my sister-in-law, and it went fine. So I think that's a good reminder that sometimes in life, when you're anxious about something, if you just rip the Band-Aid and just do it, it won't be as scary as you think. So if you're hesitant about telling someone something, don't overthink it. Just do it, because it's 99% of the time so much easier, and you feel so much better after having done it. So we've got March. It is March when this comes out, and I'm ready for March. I'm ready for warm weather. I am a warm weather girl, and I couldn't, I can't wait for the seasonal allergies, and I can't wait for the beautiful sunshine in the afternoon that is going to whisper at me to sit on a porch or a patio and have a margarita. Even when I'm doing my PVF. For those of you who don't know, PVF stands for protein, veggies, and healthy fats. It's something I like to do to keep myself nutritionally in check. I know sometimes we can get a little bit, especially during the holidays, lackadaisical. Thank you to my friend Kyle for reminding me that it's not lackadaisical, which reminds me of something else. But anyway, you can get lackadaisical in your nutrition, your libations, your sleep deprivation during the holidays. It's pretty normal for that to happen, but I think it also can creep up back again when it's nice out and you're like, oh, wow, I was going to stay at home, eat a really healthy meal tonight and try to get to bed early. But then, there's that meme how the sun is whispering like, have a beverage, sit outside and have a beverage with your friend. And it's true, and it happens. So during my PVF, it's 3 days for me. I really focus on eating healthy proteins, veggies, healthy fats. I only drink water and my coffee, so no alcohol is consumed during those 3 days. And boy, do I feel so good after it. I've gotten a lot of the Body by Trainer community doing this because I think when you have a goal like that, it's a lot easier to do when you have a community of friends or even those that are doing it virtually with you around the world. It makes it easier to know, like, oh man, I really would like to go out tonight. But gosh, so-and-so on the other side of the world is focused. I'm going to be focused for myself, but also I know it will help her too. So during those times, I really try to stay on top of it, and I'm generally pretty good about it. So if you need a little extra motivation, I always post on my stories when I'm doing it so you have an idea of, okay, Megan's doing it, so we can get this done. Before Dr. Capizzi comes in, briefly want to tell you 8 days ago where I was sitting. I was out like a light. I was out like a light on the good stuff. And so I had my girlfriend Mary bring me in. Mary is an amazing friend of mine. She's always there for me. And it was kind of silly for my mom to drive me because she lives so far away. So I was like, Mom, she wanted to pick me up. She wanted me to stay at their house. Thank you so much to my mom and dad for being so amazing during my recovery process. But Mary drove me. Mary lives in my same apartment complex. Very easy. I came down. I said, Mary, I'll be out front at 7:30. I got to be there at 8. We're going to start giving me the good drugs at 8. So surgery is at 9. So I come down to the front of the valet where our parking area is, and she has blasting on the radio at 7:30 a.m. ass and titties, and big booty. Sorry, I know, hopefully parental guidance, but I was dying laughing. So that was the start of my new experience. And we got there, and I called my best friend Joni. You all know Nurse Joni. If you don't, she's an amazing friend of mine, best friend, nurse, who has had the breast augmentations and has thoroughly encouraged me to go bigger. I mean, she was just like, you're going to wish you went bigger. So I'm like, no, Joni, that's not my thing. That's not my vibe. That's not my look. But I always took into account what she said. Fast forward, I see Dr. Capizzi, and I got a little bit of the happy drugs happening. And I said, right before we went in, I said, go to the bigger size, because we had talked about two different sizes. And they're very different sizes. But in my head right before, I was like, go with the bigger one. Just do it. And I was like, I don't know if that was the best decision. But in that mindset, I was like, great. So come out of surgery, I see Dr. Capizzi, and, I'm fully like loop-de-doop. And I said, what size did we go with? Because they have a process, and we'll talk about that when he's here. And he said, we went with the smaller one. He didn't say it like that. He said the number, but I got to keep something from you guys, so you don't know what happened, what size these are. But I was like, oh boy, we did. And I got a little bit hesitant or like nervous, like, oh no. Of course, I'm on the drug, so I don't really focus on it too much. Wake up several hours later after being home. By the way, great process. I was up having soup. I was walking around. Yeah, it was very different feeling, but pain was okay. It just felt like I had 2 new pieces of equipment like stitched to my body that didn't belong there. But it was fine overall. So I started having what my friend calls BG, which is, was it BG? Oh yeah, boob greed. So you start to feel like you should have gone bigger. So I had a conversation with one of my really good girlfriends who's in the industry, and I said, I can't believe it. We did not go with the bigger size. I feel like they look exactly the same. What did I do? When can I go back under the knife? And she's like, okay, Megan, you need to take a deep breath. You need to calm down. You've been staring at these things all day, and you've been staring at them for 40 years of your life. So of course you're going to be a little hard on yourself and thinking, what did you do? Just give yourself time. Fast forward to the next day, the nurse at Dr. Capizzi called me, and she was amazing. How you doing? How you feeling? Great. The staff there is unbelievable and so kind and caring and makes you feel like you're a part of the family. And I said, but I have a question. So I understand we went with this size, but this is the size I said right before. Can you, what? She said, Megan, listen, girl, we put in the bigger size in you, and then we sat you up and could not close the incision because your body is not capable of holding such size. My skin, because of what I started out with, was not physically capable of holding that size. So I said, beautiful, beautiful. This is great. I have so much more peace of mind now. I understand why Dr. Capizzi went with that size. I understand why you guys did that. And so when I told my girlfriend who was helping me out earlier the day before, she was like, so what she said was you have perfect boobs. I was like, I guess. But it made me feel a lot better. And so knowing that I had such great people on the, taking good care of me while I was incoherent made me feel just absolutely so much better. So while I was under, we also did this procedure called Avelli, which Dr. Capizzi and I will briefly touch on, but it is about reducing cellulite. I've always been secure about cellulite on the back of my legs and on my booty, and I don't understand it, don't get it, don't appreciate it, and I understand that there's really no absolute procedure that can get rid of cellulite. It's just the way our female bodies are made. But there is a procedure that can definitely drastically reduce those larger dimples. So I had that procedure done while I was under, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those results. I know a lot of you guys have asked me about it, and Dr. Capizzi will talk to you about it. But listen, you know me. I'm all about doing things that make you feel more positive and make you feel better about who you are. And if you can do something about that, do it. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it. Without further ado, I would love to introduce, I have a very great introduction for Dr. Capizzi because he deserves all of the introduction and the accolades. So I will now bring on my plastic surgeon, Dr. Peter Capizzi. Okay, well, I'm so excited to introduce all of you to Dr. Peter Capizzi, my plastic surgeon who took such great care of me and my very first guest on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks, Megan.
Yes,
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I put a few notes down because I wanted to brag on you a little bit, but give the listeners who might not live in Charlotte or might not be in the industry of plastic surgery a little knowledge about what I thought was important when I was looking for someone who was going to essentially change my life in a very big, positive, confident way. So Dr. Peter Capizzi has placed over 12,000 implants in his career, now 12,001. It's probably more than that by now, but you are double board certified, which I found very interesting, meaning that you have your American Board of Surgery, which is a general surgeon.
That's correct.
And the American Board of Plastic Surgery. And what I found out about that was that you essentially have a degree in all forms of surgery. So you can do general surgery in addition to the plastic surgery piece.
And that's correct in a general sense,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. Well, I just found that to be very comforting, knowing what
I'm not going to be doing brain surgery. Yeah.
Right, but it was nice to
Right.
know that you had that background and that level of certification, which was good for me to know, because he has an expertise in the gummy bear implant, which is what we did.
That's right.
The gummy bear implant. He also does, in addition to breast augmentation, lifts, reductions, and revisions of breast reconstruction, which I had a lot of ladies in the Body by Trainer community reach out to me who have actually recently gone through double mastectomies and have had full reconstruction. And I think as a surgeon, when you're doing something like that, it must feel so empowering to know that you're giving a woman sort of her confidence back after having gone through something so large in her life.
Oh, yeah. That's always been part of the practice that it's been near and dear to me throughout my entire career.
Yeah.
It's been that, and breast reconstruction is really very challenging.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. And that was one of the questions that we'll get to about the recovery of something like that, because I know a lot more goes into it than
Sure.
just an augmentation. So he is expertly adept in body contouring techniques such as tummy tucks, liposuction, and the mommy makeover. Which how long does it take to do a quote unquote mommy makeover, and what does that entail actually?
So mommy makeover implies that we're doing a breast procedure and a tummy procedure.
Okay.
And a lot of times when we're doing a tummy procedure, we're doing some liposuction and a tummy tuck.
Okay.
So if you think of it as that, most for me in my practice, you're probably looking at about 3 hours.
Okay.
So that on the breast side, that's just an augmentation.
Right.
But if we're doing a lift or a reduction, it might take a little bit
Okay.
longer. So it
I
might be
gotcha.
4 hours.
Okay. And I was just amazed to find out that my surgery essentially was under an hour, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like
Yeah.
40 or so minutes?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just
That's
crazy to
usually the
think that
case.
it's like, oh, all of a sudden there's this
Yeah.
new me. In addition to that, Dr. Capizzi has a curriculum beyond impressive and is way too long for me to list. But I do
So-
know that I went to the best. And I really appreciate your whole practice just taking such good care of me. And I wouldn't imagine having gone through this with any other practice. So thank you for coming on this podcast and talking to me and for making me feel so good.
Thanks for saying that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm humbled by that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love hearing that. I mean, obviously I'm a surgeon. I love doing what I love doing
Yeah.
as a career, but making somebody feel good
Yeah.
and better about themselves is
Well,
the best.
I actually feel like I'm not saying I have a PhD or I'm a doctor by any means, but I do feel like we have a lot in common in that with my Body by Trainer, I am there to motivate, encourage, provide body positivity to the women that work out with me in my daily workouts. I want them to change their mindset about how they feel about themselves. And by doing these workouts together, I'm essentially changing their body to feel better in the process of the mindset as well. So you do that in your practice. And I know that when I leave a workout or when I'm going into a workout, I say, you know what, maybe today's the day that a woman is going to do a workout with me and she's having a bad day and she just needs a little positivity. She needs that little boost to get her through the day. And I'm curious, like when you're getting ready to do a surgery for someone, how you feel. Do you because you and I met a couple times beforehand.
Sure.
You took the time to understand that I'm a very active person and want this to be something that only enhances my daily life. So when you think about going into surgery, or like, what is your thought process? Because I know you've done so many, but is there anything you think about before going into a surgery?
Absolutely. First and foremost, it's know your person that you're with.
Yeah.
And know your patient. And I'm asking you about like your activity, your outside work. And I even say that to my nurse is like, I always want to know like what what they do for work, or if they do not, or if they're active.
Right.
And I'm trying to get a feel for like their life and who they are, because if I know who they are and then also know what they want,
Right.
then I'll know how to get there.
Right.
And really the hard part is not the surgery part.
Right.
The surgery part is like, hey, I know what I'm going to do. We're going to go do this.
Right.
We've already figured out
Right.
what's going to be good for this
Exactly.
person.
Well, and before you came on, I shared about waking up with the BG, the boob greed, where I thought I should have gone bigger, and I panicked. And I told them about, you know, what your nurse had told me about. And so in that moment, do you ever get nervous when you sit up a patient and they said they wanted a certain size?
Sure.
And you sit them up and you're like, oh, that's not going to be possible.
Right.
Or, wow, I feel like we could go bigger. You've done so many, but do you ever get nervous thinking, oh no, I hope this woman is going to be okay with like our collective decision? Because there are other nurses in the room and helping and whatnot.
Correct. There's, I mean, there are few and far between. There are times that you get hoodwinked, but obviously, you know, hey, you know, I've been in this for over 25 years, and it's a matter of like, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And every now and then there's something that comes along and it's usually in a revision case.
Okay.
And a person that's had implants.
Yes.
And they'll say, oh, these are, let's say 400s.
Yeah.
They'll give a volume, but there's no card, there's no documentation. And then lo and behold, they're not.
Okay.
They're like 600s. You know, so they're like literally like,
oh, yeah.
you know, 70% more than what they said, or 50% more than what they told you.
Right.
And so the sizes you talked about are not, they're almost irrelevant now, because now you have different information.
Right.
And this information is real because you're looking right at it.
Uh-huh.
And that happens so few and far between, but
yeah,
it has happened. Oh, I have. There are some that pop up for sure.
Well, and I laughed and I shared with a few friends. I showed them I have like guys, my breasts have an identification card. I didn't realize that. So it says literally like the left is this, the right is, and that makes sense. I was like, why would I ever need this information? But I guess it's if I ever was to do something else, I would know.
I mean, you could lose that card.
Right.
And we have it actually, it's on a national database now. So it's required before you even leave the operating room. It's already entered in the national database.
Well, I'm leaving it with my driver's license, with my passport, and all that stuff,
well,
just so I always know.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, in addition to that, about the reconstruction, when you're doing, I had a friend who literally just had like the day after me, somewhere else. She lives in New Jersey, but a reduction.
Yeah.
And she's a small person, but she's just always had like a lot of breasts. And so she had a reduction, and afterwards they didn't do an implant or anything, and she felt like all of a sudden they were just way too small. I kind of attribute that to similar how I felt right after thinking, oh no, I should have done more. But I feel like for any woman out there who's considering this, give it time. I mean, if I were to look at me 8 days later, I'm like giving advice. Oh, yeah. But if I were to give any woman advice, it's just give it time to settle, because it's such a big change.
Oh, it is on all ends. Like you were saying, reduction or augmentation. There's a phenomena where it's like, oh, they're not big enough, and like you were saying, the reduction.
Right.
Oh, they're too small, and that person has a drastic body shape change.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to relax for a moment. Cooler heads prevail. Neither group has burnt a bridge.
Right.
You can always adjust it later on, but take the healing section out of it. Get out of that portion of it and sit back and say, hey, let my body just heal for now.
Yeah.
And get accustomed to it for a moment.
Right. And I've been so lucky and thankful that my body has been responding to it so well, as far as like feeling, yes, it's a different feeling, obviously.
Right.
But from the day-to-day life, just feeling like I'm capable of still doing the things I want to do. And that is so important in what I teach with Body by Trainor, to take care of yourself, because you never know. Obviously, this was elective surgery, but you never know when you're going to need some kind of surgery. So if we can just all take better care of ourselves when we go through some sort of surgery recovery process, it will be a lot better, because ultimately your body can handle things better.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just physical, it's mental.
Yeah.
And a big part,
Totally.
more important in a way.
Yeah.
If you're not positive about it, it's not going to be a positive experience, most likely.
Well, I am like eternally optimistic. I'm a little bit overly positive sometimes, but I find that I prefer to be that way if that's, if I got to go one way or the other. When I went into this, I said, okay, I'm obviously going to listen to what Dr. Capizzi says about when I can work out again, but I ultimately know that I won't push it. I won't overdo it because I don't want to mess this up. That was a lot to go through. But I also know that my body is different than others. So you kind of have to, you listen to your body while listening to the doctor.
Sure.
So I can, maybe I'll be a little different. At least I'm saying this to myself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, I think that, I mean, you're a really positive person. I don't worry about the healing. The things I worry about someone that's very active is,
of course,
hey, you're going to feel almost too good.
Right.
Too soon.
I know.
And it's like,
know.
oh, this is okay. I'm going to go run a mile. Right. Or
oh, God.
I had somebody say, oh, you said I could walk. And I said, okay, how far did you walk? I walked 5 miles. I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't really the idea. So you get stuff like that.
Well, let me ask you then, why can't you walk 5 miles? Like, what is it? I understand technically, but like, what will it do to your body if you do push it a little too much?
Yeah. So I think that first of all, is it the length or is it with the vigorousness of somebody doing it?
Yeah.
So is it somebody that's moving their arms, going like this?
Okay.
Or is it somebody that's like walking, like lumbering along?
Right.
Probably not lumbering.
Okay.
And probably like, hey, I want to get out there and do something. So you're moving your arms a lot. That's increasing the circulation in your upper extremity, which is already increased a little bit from your surgery, which then might translate into more swelling.
Okay.
And then you might have an incision problem.
Okay.
Because that's going to be the weakest part.
Ah.
And that won't be as strong as skin for 90 days.
Okay.
So no matter where it is, it takes 3 months.
Okay. So note to self, no 5
months. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. But I did find it so cool that the stitches are actually internal.
Yeah.
So my incisions are under my breasts, and you can of course see them just because I just had it done, but there's no stitch on the outside. It's all inside.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm just trying to envision you like stitching up how that works, but.
And the outside one's like is barbed.
Okay.
So it actually doesn't have a knot on one end at all. It has just these barbs, so you can't pull it out in the other direction.
Oh.
And so that's kind of really helpful.
Yeah.
So you don't have like a lot of knots.
Right.
And of course, that's not always been the case. But that's the way it is today.
Well, it's just we've come so far, and I do want to go through a couple of the questions that I posted with the community, and one of the questions definitely was about just women who have had breast surgery in some way and what's changed in the past or from then to now. So I'm just going to pull up my phone because I did write these down. I'm a very organized girly. Okay, so one of the things we kind of touched on it was the incisions. So from the difference from a normal breast augmentation, a full lift, and then a breast reduction, what are the differences from the incisions?
Okay, so breast augmentation, usually 1.5 inch incision. Most common is at the crease.
Okay.
And that's
just like where I had it, right on the bottom.
Yeah. If you're doing a breast lift can be in 3 different incision patterns. So you can have an incision around the areola only.
Okay.
That's a mini lift. You could have one that looks like a lollipop, has around the areola and goes down the breast, like a vertical. And you could have one that looks like an anchor around the areola, down the breast, and along the crease. And that's a full crease incision.
Yeah.
So that looks just like the breast reduction incision.
Oh, okay.
That full lift looks like the breast reduction.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. My one friend who had the double mastectomy and the reconstruction, it sounds like similar incisions.
Okay.
I think so.
It can be.
Yeah. Okay. So for a downtime, we kind of touched upon this, but I just want to understand the downtime for all those 3 things. So regular lift, augmentation, and reduction. Is there any different downtime periods?
Yeah, I think for the lift and the augmentation, those are the easier downtime.
Okay.
Meaning, like I tell people, they can go back to, usually back to work in 2 days, driving the next day, shower the next day, taking ibuprofen and Tylenol.
Yeah.
And the lift aspect, if you're doing a lift and an augmentation, a lot of times it's really the lift's the more difficult of the procedure, not the augmentation.
Yeah.
And then you might have probably as far as like the soreness, it might be the augmentation part that's more lift.
Interesting. Yeah.
From a breast reduction, because there's a lot of breast tissue coming into a smaller area.
Right.
That takes a little bit more recovery. That's probably a couple of, I'd say a week, and then you can go back to work.
Okay.
For sure.
And I was saying, I think that's what the feeling for me is just that I didn't have the skin's elasticity to have a larger implant. So for me, it just feels like tight. And I know that will change over time.
Yeah, it will. It'll definitely. It'll become softer.
Yeah.
As you know. I mean, you can kind of see it happening.
Yes, already feeling it within 8 days. So
one side more than the other. One side always faster than the other. It's normal.
Well, I do have one girlfriend who's very curious about nipple sensation and if that comes into effect in any of those lifts or whatever. Yeah,
so honestly, they're mostly more sensitive right after the procedures.
Okay. Yeah.
I know there's certainly from a lift or reduction standpoint, there's a risk of loss of sensation, but that is really low.
Okay.
It's usually not an issue.
Yeah. I wouldn't think so.
It's usually the other way around. It's like, oh my God, these things. Can you do something about them?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I feel that. I definitely don't like having on. I like to have the bra on because I just don't like having a t-shirt over with the sensitivity of the nipple right after. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Exactly.
And then as far as we talked about the downtime, ladies, listen to your doctor. Talking to myself.
Yeah.
And then time frame for replacement implants. This was a big question for those who may have had them 10, 15 years ago.
Sure.
With the technology changes, what would you recommend?
So I recommend, as far as exchange, is usually, first of all, if you've had your implants placed as a highly cohesive gel, which is a gummy bear implant.
Okay.
Not to be confusing. It's still silicone, but it's a more cohesive. You can't squeeze it out. It's not going to drip out.
Right.
Those implants are basically, you don't have to change them out unless there's an issue.
Okay.
And that issue would be deflation or a fracture or what's called capsular contracture.
Yes.
And a lot's changed. The question I usually get is, hey, do I have to change these out every 10 years?
Right.
That's grown out of the saline world. So saline was really popular back in the 80s and 90s, and they have the highest risk of rupture.
Right.
So people would change, and I saw one today.
Yeah.
So it's literally, that's where that question comes from.
Right. And I have silicone, right?
You have silicone.
Okay, good. And I went under the muscle. Is there any particular reason you like to do that versus over?
Well, the most popular placement is under the muscle.
Okay.
I like to place it under there for most people because, one, is more coverage.
Right.
Two, people come in and they say, hey, I want a natural, or I want to look like I have a push-up bra.
Right.
But I don't always want to look like I have a push-up bra.
Right.
Or I don't want that round grapefruit on a chest look.
Right.
Well, if they want the grapefruit, put it on top of the muscle.
Okay.
Because you'll see the implant more. You won't have that upper part covered by your muscle.
Okay. So, the rippling, when you so that won't happen if it's under the muscle?
Yeah, it won't happen up here.
Okay.
Some people, if they're quite slight, they could see it outside in the lateral aspect.
Okay.
Or if they lean forward,
they'll
say, oh, look at that. They could see that.
And maybe the larger the implant, too, it might be a little bit more obvious.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
It's definitely a relationship of size.
Okay. And then let's see. Why do women seek to replace implants, generally speaking? Is it more because they just want to go bigger, smaller, or when you have people come to you that already have them?
Women mostly want to change them, that I see, want to change them out because, one, they've had an older generation.
Right.
Like these are the fifth, now we're working on fifth, sixth generation implants. The generation changed. There's still the fourth out there.
Right.
And, you
gotta keep innovating, right? I guess.
Right. Well, you hear, oh, I can get a breast dog down wherever for a lot less, and you're not getting the same.
No.
You never get the same. So people change them because they've had an older implant and they have had a body shape change.
Okay.
And either children, weight loss, life, age. And that's what I see a lot today.
Right.
That is a really popular thing that I see.
Okay.
Is that revision work.
And also, it was important to do for me because if I want to have children one day, you said that it doesn't affect the milk ducts, so you can still breastfeed. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
We haven't gone through any of breast.
Yeah.
We went behind.
I mean, that's just like
entirely
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I did freeze my eggs, so you never know. Could do something with those.
Yeah.
And then a couple more questions. How do you choose implant placement as far as for the woman? Like we kind of just said, do you look at their body and say you would be better over or you'd be better under the muscle? Is there something about the female body that you choose that for?
So, first of all, I'm listening to the person I'm with. So the woman is telling me, hey, if they're saying, hey, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm professional, I compete, I need to have this look, and I want that. Then we talk about, like, hey, the positives and minuses of both those placements.
Right.
And if they say, I want to have it on top, great. But we have covered those concerns.
Right.
The same with beneath. The most common, not just in my practice, but in the world, is underneath.
Right.
And there are different risks related to both of those.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Just understanding what...
It's much more collaborative than it was when I first trained. When I first trained, it was literally like the doctor would say, hey, here's the implant, and this is going to look great.
And for those of you watching this, Dr. Capizzi did bring an implant for us to just hold in your hand.
Yeah, there you go.
This is a what?
A Sientra, and that's a gummy bear 385.
Oh, yeah. See, I have Sientra, and I have a gummy bear. Not this size, but...
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
And another question for you. This was a really a big one that a lot of people ask. So you have your consultations, you do your due diligence. For someone who's looking for a plastic surgeon to have this procedure, do you recommend any like critical things to ask the doctor or critical things within their practice that you say, this is something you should look for, so you go to them?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I think the biggest thing, and today I think we're mostly presented with a lot of avenues of getting information. Right. Not only just from our friends. I do think friends and that have had the procedure are probably more important than like social media. Right. But social media is an avenue. And the other is like when you're going to meet that person, do you feel comfortable with that person? Right. Outside of how they board certified and are they really a plastic surgeon? Outside of that is, hey, in your gut, do you feel like this person can explain it? Do I understand it? Because I think if the planning session or the planning part, it's got to be collaborative. Are they listening to me? Right. Totally. And I'm saying I want this. Am I getting what I'm saying, or is there a reason I can't get what I'm saying? And that seems, plausible. Yeah. I think that's like any relationship too. Like, yeah, that's probably true. Is my partner listening to me? Right. Or are you just talking to me? Well, I think that was really great when I saw you for the first time. It was a conversation. It was like, what are you looking for, and how can we achieve that for you, knowing that this is a big decision. Yeah. So it was not taken like lightly. Like, oh, I know I've done so many implants. This is just another one. I don't even know if we even talked about that. No, we didn't. Like, no. I found that on the Googles. Yeah. So I typically don't. It's more of, it's funny, throughout the whole career, it's changed. It's like mostly the discussion is almost not about the breast implant. It's like about like, what do you want? Okay, is this the look you like? Right. Okay, this is where we are. This is you. Right. These are the measurements we have. This is what you like on the pictures. Yeah, I think we can get there, and this is how I think we can get there. Okay. I love that. That made me feel really good from the very beginning. One last question about the breast portion of it that I think is great is, for those with breast implants, is there any difference in how we can do self testing for? Oh, you mean for your exam for the breasts? Right. Well, certainly, I follow the American Cancer Society. Like 40 is like where you do screening for mammography, but you're talking about self-exam. Correct. Sorry, I couldn't get that out. Self-exam. Self-exam is typically easier with breast implants because the breast is compressed to the skin. Okay. And so you can actually feel more of the breast tissue and what's within the breast tissue. better.
Right.
Because
That's
your implant's
so
actually
great to
artificially
hear.
pushing that ahead.
Okay.
And I mean, there are studies in our specialty that show that women that have breast implants actually have a decreased risk for breast cancer. And I think that's not obviously the implants are not curing anything.
Sure.
It's a matter of, I think, one, they're healthier. Two, if they do find something, it's done earlier.
Right.
So I think that's
really reassuring to know.
Just it's not like we're
That's good. That's good to know. I did want to touch on the Avelli procedure that I had done because I did mention that. So I talked earlier about how cellulite is just never going anywhere and it's so annoying and I hate it and I wish like I could just take a pill and it would go away.
Right.
But we know that's not possible. So I explained what the Avelli procedure was, and it's so intriguing to me. It doesn't smooth your skin. So it's not going to like just smooth your skin. But what I explained is that when you have larger dimples, you're able to go in there and essentially break the septa.
Right.
And that will decrease the dimple effect, right?
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
I just think of it as like a string holding a tent up.
Okay.
And that little string, we're dividing that string. So now you don't have that tension anymore. And now the skin's able to spring up. Now, it's not just going to spring up because it's not space. You're going to build scar where that is.
Right.
And that's going to fill that little area. And it's been really, honestly, surprisingly good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I know you said it takes like 3 weeks. So I'm looking forward to, I just feel like that will make me so much more confident. It's so frustrating to have an insecurity that you can't do anything about. Like, I can get breasts, I can get Botox, I can get my nails done, spray tan, hair, but it's truly one of those, like, phenomenons that we cannot get rid of. And when it is your insecurity, I have some girlfriends that don't have it, and I don't understand that. But, and it's just, a lot of it is, you know, hereditary or in your family. And so it doesn't necessarily reflect that you don't take care of yourself if you have it.
Sure.
So it's frustrating.
Yeah, I know. I get it. And cellulite thing has been, it's definitely something, whoever figures all that out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will pay like $1 million.
But I got to tell you, the Avelli is really good because it's not only the instrument, it's really an instrument. And the person holding the instrument is honestly the most important part of it. So, again.
Well, I've seen it, and it kind of looks a little bit like lipo in that you kind of go in, right?
Correct.
And then you find the
septa,
and then it like pops.
Yeah, you
and
have
then
like a little
you know
button
you got
press.
it, right?
Yeah, you press it, and it basically comes out like a crochet hook. If you know what a crochet hook looks like, that's basically what it's doing.
Okay.
It gets around that little septa, and then you just pull on it, and it divides it.
Okay. Well, it was. I mean, I have bruising, but for as far as like someone considering doing it, the downtime is like nothing. Besides visual bruising and feeling like I did a lot of squats or something, which I really miss doing.
You can do some squats.
Okay, I can do some squats.
Yeah, not a problem. And you know, there was another medication that was injectable to try to lyse septa.
Okay.
And that turned out not to work. There's lasers that also didn't work very well, but the Avelli works. And it's
I'm a little annoyed that
simple's good.
Yeah, simple is good. I'm just a little annoyed that men don't really get it.
Oh, I have nothing to do with that. Yeah.
I know that's not your problem, but it's frustrating that women get to
get other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true. We all have our things, but I was kind of thinking about this and I was going to make a joke about it, but it's so true. I turned 40 in December and all of a sudden I sweat like under my armpits when I'm just sitting here. I actually have like tissues. Now I don't stuff my boobs. I stuff my tissues. I know. And so tell the people and tell me a little bit more because I know it's one treatment.
Yeah. 92% effective in one treatment. There are some that need a retreatment. Okay. That's like 8%. But
it's like a laser.
So it's a microwave. It's microwave technology. It's not light. Okay. And so it's a heat generated thing, but it takes about, I'd say 60 minutes to do the procedure. It takes about 30 minutes to do the local anesthetic, so you're awake. Okay. And our office Amy was doing it today. Okay. Amy, and I'm blessed. I've got so many I've got such great staff. Amy's probably done more in this Charlotte area of this treatment than anyone because
wow.
I know I don't know. I know how many people have these machines.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
She's done, I think, probably over 200 of them.
Okay.
So
it's just it's wild how your body changes as you get older. And I'm like, I never have been an underarm sweater, and all of a sudden I am, and I'm self-conscious of, oh, I can't wear that color or I can't wear that fabric because I'll just be sitting there, not nervous, but all of a sudden I start sweating.
Yeah, you definitely think about it because Mirror Dry works.
Okay.
And we've had the technology for about 6 years.
Oh, really?
So,
okay,
the
so that's not a
technology is
newer.
not brand new. The people don't know it.
Yeah.
Or they don't know it. It's not like Kleenex or it's not like Cool Sculpting, which
Right.
is a huge marketing campaign.
Sure.
But Mirror Dry is steady.
Okay.
People who have that problem of what's called hyperhidrosis or excessive sweating,
Okay.
they are looking for something to fix it.
Totally. Well, yeah, it's like you get self-conscious about it. Is that, I don't know where else you would do it, but is that the only place you do it? Under the arms?
Under the arms, they're doing, there's talk about, in fact, I was just talking with their company about a study for the back and hands. Or the other area.
Okay.
And so most commonly it's 3 things it affects: sweating, odor, and hair. And so you'll have hair reduction, you'll have odor reduction.
Okay.
And obviously the sweating is
treated. Well, I'm definitely all in on doing anything that will make you a more confident person and make you show up in the best version of yourself. So I feel like encouraging anyone out there who is thinking about doing something like that. I actually have a girlfriend who I swear I thought she had breast implants, and they're real. But she's been thinking about, after having 3 kids and doing and breastfeeding, she was one of the questions about how do you find the best doctor for where you live. She lives, I think, in Alabama. So, well, I know she lives in Alabama. But do your research is what I would say.
Yeah. Or they can come up to Charlotte.
Or you can come up to Charlotte. Hey, we got Dr. Capizzi right here.
Yeah, I'd be glad to see her.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Do you feel like I missed any topics about breast augmentation or anything like that? If there's any other things you wanted to add?
No, I think that breast augmentation, I think that there's some new stuff on the horizon.
Okay.
As far as the implants, the best implant today, that's the only implant made in the U.S.
Okay.
It's made in Wisconsin.
That's cool. I like that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
And then I think that is the best implant available today.
Okay.
So I think as far as augmentation, it's a great procedure.
Yeah.
It helps so many people.
Yes.
And I think that there's always, it's a hot topic when people start talking about it.
Well, and more people have it than you think. And that's what a huge thing that I love to do is talk about things that are normal that maybe people feel a little uncomfortable about because it's not necessarily such a topic of conversation at the dinner table. And I'm not saying I'm going to go around talking about breast implants all the time, nor will this podcast be always about my boobs. But it is a huge change in my life, and I really wanted to address it because it's changing a lot of things for me, and it's important that we talk about what can help someone feel better about themselves, whatever that might be.
Oh, I'll tell you something that's kind of funny. They always ask, well, not always, but some people that are a little older, like my age, they'll come in, I don't know if I'm old enough to be doing this anymore or whatever. And I said, hey, how old are you? All right, you're 60. I'm 61. And then my wife would,
she would remind
you're
you.
61. I said, well, my oldest primary augmentation is 81.
Wow.
I know. I said,
oh,
it's
that's
all
a good
here.
question. Yeah.
It's all in your head.
Well, you can't give up on yourself. You
can't
assume that just because you're a certain age, all of a sudden you got to let yourself go.
Right.
What's the point of life if we don't continue to try to be a better version of ourselves?
Right.
And if that means doing something in the plastic surgery space, like, I'm all for it.
Oh, yeah.
So
me too. It's all good. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I really, really appreciate you coming on to talk about this.
Thanks so much, Megan.
And if anybody is out there looking for questions about this, please let me know. I'll do the best I can to answer. But if you're in Charlotte or in the surrounding areas, please visit Dr. Capizzi at his office.
Thanks
it's
so much for
beautiful. It's a beautiful office. It's right off of Dilworth, off East Boulevard, and it's just beautiful. So Thank you for being my first guest.
Oh,
this was a lot of fun.
That. I feel privileged for sure.
Yes.
I'm flattered.
Well,
Thanks.
I just want to keep providing useful information for anybody who's listening and bring value to people's life by tuning into the Talks with Your Trainer podcast. So who knows who'll be my next guest, but guys, it's March. It is an exciting time to be getting after it. You know, don't wait to get your summer body until the summertime.
Yeah.
Do the things now. So I know that, you know, by the time it's essentially like bathing suit season, if you will, or golf season, my body will be ready to play golf. Speaking of, it's 6 weeks, I think you said, is when I can play golf.
Yeah.
So, you know, counting down the days for that. I already have my tee time for 6 weeks from now.
All right.
But thank you guys so much for listening. Please stay tuned to more information on Body by Trainer on my Instagram account. And thank you so much again to Everybody Studios for hosting this and having us and allowing me to bring my vision to life here. I love you guys so much. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks again, Dr. Capizzi.
Oh, hey, you're welcome.
Thanks,
Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was good.